Well, hello there. Welcome back to the studio today. Yep, we have a blank surface today. No, the Rembrandt is not complete yet, and yes, we will continue to work on the Rembrandt. But today, I thought we would start a painting that will be probably one of the most difficult master studies that I could ever attempt to this day, because I will be creating a master study, or starting a master study of a Nelson Shanks. Yep, Nelson Shanks. He is my superhero. Nelson Shanks is my superhero in painting. I was fortunate enough to meet him around 2010 or so. Unfortunately, Nelson passed away in 2015, but he is the founder. He and his wife Leona Shanks are the founders of Studio Incominati, the School for Contemporary Realist Art in Philadelphia, PA, Pennsylvania. Amazing school. I went there for a year back again in 2010 or 2011. I get it mixed up, somewhere around that time frame. So we will be starting this master study today. I'm working on a 9 by 12 inch panel. This has been painted over an old painting, so what I used was a raw umber Winsor Newton brand and Winsor Newton Griffin fast drying titanium white alkyd, and this has been dry for I think about a month now, so the surface should be good to go. So I'm going to be starting off with the the same approach we've been using. This is a very laid back way to start a painting. Right here on the palette I have just raw umber, so today I'll be using raw umber, and what I have in the little cup over here, this is my drawing medium that I'll be using. It's not a medium, it's thinner. This is again, I'll show you the little cup over here because this will probably be the last time you see the cup today. This is I'm using Spike Lavender Oil. Spike Lavender is a very traditional solvent cleaner, but it has a much better relationship with oil paint from my understanding. So what I do is I just dip the brush into the spike lavender and create the consistency that I want. Usually I hold this wooden palette, but I'm not going to be holding the palette today. It's going to be off to the side here so you can see it. Alright. That might be a little too runny. I'd say about here. I'm going to adjust it a little bit. So it doesn't glare on me too much. That should be about good. Alright, let's get started. First brush stroke, done. Okay, so what I aim to do is establish the surface, meaning this is a dry bristle brush. So right now I'm just getting a feel for the surface. I'm going to be doing a head study, and oh, by the way, the photo reference, I'll link you to the Studio Incominati website where you can view the image there. I remember asking Leona a long time ago when I visited the school, Studio Incominati, if I could use one of Nelson's images for a video, for a video, and she gave me her permission, but this was quite a long time ago. So I'll be constantly referring to Studio Incominati just because, again, they're a really wonderful school in Philadelphia, and they have some of the greatest contemporary realist painters alive today at that school, in my opinion. So I have the top of the head, the bottom of the head. I'm just kind of guesstimating the proportion. So maybe about there. I don't want the face to get too small. The priority is going to be with the face. So clearly the perspective is looking down. So Nelson was looking down at the model. And if you've never heard of Nelson Shanks, you definitely got to look up his artwork. He is incredible. So I'd say about yay, about there. Here's the bottom of the chin. And I like to start out with raw umber. Again, this is going to be just like I started the Rembrandt probably a month ago now. The same type of technique, the same type of approach, just a different image. And this is just trying to get a grasp on the outside shape. And I'm going for the most obvious stuff in the beginning of this drawing. And I highly recommend drawing with raw umber in this style. Remember, I have the links in the description box down below, Amazon affiliate links, so you can purchase the same type of materials that I'm using. Also, online students, if you're watching, this is yet another extracurricular. Just bear in mind that Nelson Shanks is my superhero, so I will probably be extra cautious with the start, or with this painting in general. Alright, so this is always a very exciting part in the process. You know, we're really inventing everything from nothing at this stage. And what I'm looking for is, again, the most basic stuff that I can grasp. And Nelson Shanks, he would always say, look at the big picture, focus on the big picture before getting caught up in minutia and any kind of details. So I'm going to be as faithful as I possibly can to Nelson and his way of working. He was like this. He was very loose. He's pretty much watching him demonstrate, and I was fortunate enough, I believe, unless I was dreaming, I saw him do a demonstration, painting demonstration, and you see how the brush moves, and you see all this energy captured through his technique, and it was a really wonderful thing to see. So whenever the paint starts to get a little too, you know, like that, like it doesn't flow as well, what I'll do is either add more paint or use the spike lavender. And I will be filming this in the same style, so I'll keep filming these videos in the same style. I don't know if the uploading schedule will change, if there will be any increase or decrease at the moment that I'm filming this. So I'll just keep the dialogue entirely about the demonstration as much as I can. Little shape for the ear there, and I'm using comparative measurement, which is how I believe Nelson worked. I don't think Nelson used sight size, though he most certainly was probably taught sight size when he studied, I believe he studied in Italy. His teacher, classical painting teacher, is the same teacher that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Michael John Angel from the Angel Academy studied with. Antigone, his name was. And Nelson also studied with Henry Henchy, so that's why you see all of those brilliant colors in Nelson's artworks. He was very influenced by the Impressionist color. And that's a big thing about Studio Incominati. They combine the Impressionist color with classical drawing. But I will stick with the color palette that I've been using. I believe Nelson had around 22 colors on his palette, and the students that studied with him would draw with, from what I remember, again, correct me if I'm wrong, with burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. So right now I'm just grasping the image, you know, the angles. Nothing is correct at this point. This is just getting a feel for the drawing. And a little advice, so your bristle brushes, once they get overly worn out, retire them to eraser brushes. So see how I can erase quite easily. And we're going to take this nice and relaxed. No need to stress out. Nelson would always, from what I heard, would always talk about freedom, finding form with freedom. And I think there's ways to find form with freedom without necessarily, you know, being very expressive about it, because I feel like in Caminati, they are very expressive in how they start. When I was there, at the beginning, we did gesture drawing, figure drawing, gestures for about, I think 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute gestures for 6 hours, I think, a day. Which, now that I think about it, was probably really good exercise for the model too. But it was definitely very physical training that we went through in the start of the program. But lately I work much more slow. You can also check out the Studio and Caminati live streams. And again, if you go to the live streams, the Studio and Caminati live streams, if you heard about it here first, write a comment there, let them know that Yupari sent you. I hope they know that I am still very appreciative of everything I learned in that school. So I took off the bottom simply because I don't need it at this point. I just need the basic architecture, the basic shape. I don't need anything else. The important thing when you start a painting is to be very cautious about not using too much medium. So you want to maintain the fat over lean, meaning you want your paints to be as without too much oil. Sorry. So basically, no linseed oil, no walnut oil, just a spike lavender to thin the paint for drawing purposes. So even though I called spike lavender a drawing medium, it is not. I'm not using it as a medium. Ideally, I would rather have a Rublev raw umber for this than anything else, basically. If I want to be really, really on point about painting fat over lean, simply because Rublev doesn't use any additives in their paints. They are very traditional. They're trying to bring back or they are bringing back the types of paints that the old masters would have used. But a trade-off with that is the paint can separation of the pigment and the oil can occur in the tube, which is a simple fix. But I'm using Winsor Newton's raw umber. You want to stand back and squint. Draw exactly what you see when you're squinting. Think about this as drawing. Don't think about this as painting right now. Clearly we're using oil paint, but you want to think of this as a drawing. And you always want to be painting for the next session. You always want to think about the future. Now, I would rather have the basic shapes as accurate and simple as I can have them, knowing that I'm not perfect, knowing that there's going to be things that are going to have to be changed in the next sitting, but having established everything that I needed to establish in such a way that it's not overly difficult to apply changes. And for my drawing brush, I'm using just a cheap acrylic brush. And this painting will be layered. There'll be many layers to this. First things first, I don't want the face to be too small, so around the size of my hand is good, so this is a good size. What I would give to be able to see Nelson's work in real life. I've only seen a handful of his paintings in person. His paintings are definitely something that you have to see in person. They're so masterfully created that I don't think photographs really do his paintings that much justice. Though, I mean, they're really well documented, but seeing an oil painting in person is really something. It's a magical experience. I hope at some point in my life I'll be able to see this painting in person. The head is slightly tilted, and that slight tilt is going to be a very integral part of this. So I'm making sure at this point that I have this. Remember, the camera is at an angle, a slight angle with respect to the painting, but you should be able to see that there's an angle here with the center line. We're actually approaching the first 20 minutes. Wow, I'm slow. This is a relaxing process. Even though it's a very slow one, I find this to be very relaxing. And that's 20 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and take a break. And I'm back. So now we are going to continue to develop this Umber drawing. So now I think it's time to take a look at the proportions. Just from my eye, again, I'm going to try to stick to how Nelson worked. So I don't think that Nelson would have done too much measuring, as he was kind of he was a proponent of not measuring you know, not taking out a caliper and getting exact measurements and things like that. He was very much freeform from what I can tell. So just by my eye, it looks like this distance is a little off. So I'm just raising it a little bit. And this is a smaller used up bristle brush that I'm using as a precision eraser. The nose is usually a good indicator of the tilt, the tip, tilt, turn. So we can tell that the model's head is kind of at an angle with respect to us, and we're looking down at her. Of course, I'm going to have a smaller brush now. A little more of the spiked lavender. You only really need a drop at a time, if that, to get the paint to flow. Ideally, I would have wanted to paint on an oil-primed linen. I'm currently working on another Nelson Shanks Master Study, and that one I'm using oil-primed linen. And from my knowledge, Nelson almost always worked on oil-primed linen. Most likely the best linens that are available on the market. And I think from what I recall, they were lead primed. Lead oil paint primed linen, which I would love to have to use as well. We know based on history that using lead in oil paints helps with the longevity of your paint film. Lead is it goes without saying, lead is a very durable, time-tested material. I don't think Nelson would jump this quickly to putting in outlines like this, but I'm just putting in the curve of the lip to kind of help me gauge placements. So sometimes I'll do something like this. I'll feed the paint, then I'll use a scrubber, and this was pretty much the same brush as this, except the paint dried on the tip, so I had to chop off the top part. So now it's a scrubber. And I want to do as much as I possibly can in the umber layer, just because it's gonna be the quickest way to get an image, because we don't have to mix any paint here. So this little scrubber brush doesn't subtract quite as much as the as this one. Nelson would also work on a neutral gray ground. We have a little more of a warmish gray ground, but having a tone really helps, because when you get into values, we're not going to be getting into values today, but when you get into values, it helps because you can then use the tone. You know, we'll be able to use this tone for some of the half tones on the face. Now, online students, those of you that are watching this YouTube video, I highly recommend doing this one, again, as a extracurricular. I would use the method introduced in Project 2 with this one, the linear drawing with the transfer. Actually, I would recommend that over this approach, pretty much with all of the paintings, especially if you have, less than, if you have less experience. Starting out this way with the umber drawing is quite risky. In terms of drawing, it's a much more freeing way of working, of course, but as a result, if you don't know how to manipulate the materials, the oil paint, it can complicate the drawing process. So that's something to take into account. This is very similar to drawing with charcoal, vine charcoal in particular, which is, I think, why, actually, I know it's why they start you off with charcoal, vine charcoal in Studio Incominati. Though I start my students off with graphite, just because I think it's a little easier for the most part for most students to start off with graphite. And I particularly prefer graphite, actually, when I'm drawing. Now the question is, what can I leave on the surface that's going to be most useful in the transition from umber layer to underpainting? And I believe with this one we're going to just go right into a color underpainting when we get to it. So you always want to have a plan. Usually I add the jewelry in at the end, but I'm gonna just suggest where the jewelry is going to fit. It's a big part of the composition, so I think it's best to state it in the umber layer. And I always like to look for the most obvious things when I'm working. And the things that are not as obvious, I usually figure out later on, after taking a break or standing back. There is a crazy thunderstorm outside. And I always tell myself, the better your umber layer, the better your underpainting will be. The better your underpainting, the better your first layer of color will be, of true color. I'm gonna have to word that better next time. Just using some paper towel. When all else fails, there's bounty. Quicker picker-upper. Yes, I know, everybody prefers Viva paper towel, but that's just what I have right now. Now, I definitely have this off. The shoulders are actually right by the mouth. What did I do there? But see, you just gotta give yourself the time you need to figure things out. Now we're getting that gesture. Kind of. We're getting there. I'm just kind of feeding the paint or distributing it into the surface here. I don't want anything to be overly sharp. The beginning of a painting can be a very exciting time, but also kind of a scary time. You know, at Incominati, they emphasize the starts a lot. They do a lot of starts. I have a different method that I use with my students. I guide my students through projects, so they have the entire process at their disposal, and then they find things out for themselves about why it's important to keep things simple in the beginning, why it's important to pay close attention to proportion, drawing, shape. So I'm going to go ahead and feed all of that paint right into here. And distribute it a little bit with the little scrubby scrubber. Nelson used natural light a lot, so that's why the shadow is not as sharp. So let's go ahead and subtract for the light. And if the brush can't do it, then a piece of paper towel should do the trick. Again, this will be made more specific later. The earring goes all the way up towards the nose, the wing of the nose. Oh, I had it way off in the beginning. And we just passed the next 20-minute marker, so I'm gonna go ahead and take another break. And we're back for another 20-minute painting interval here. So let me first adjust the microphone. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay. So after taking a break, I came back and noticed that this is way off, so I'm going to move this. There may be a little of the spike lavender on the brush, so I have to either change brush or just scrub. I'm using the scrubber to try and distribute the paint. So that's what happens if there's too much solvent on the brush. We'll figure that out later on. And you want the painting to, or the drawing to develop kind of like a mist, like a misty. The least thing you want to do is put your foot down and say, the eye is here, and I will never move it for anything. Rather, what you want is enough information to move it around until it's in the right spot. And that goes for everything. I can only imagine that Nelson probably worked somewhat similar. Of course, he's Nelson. Of course, his work was light years stronger than this, but I'm pretty sure that he would have had an Umber drawing, probably using the ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna. I really got to start describing the other elements that will be in the painting. I'm pretty sure I'll put some indications of the address. Unfortunately, both Nelson Shanks and Everett Raymond Kinsler are not with us anymore. I believe those two were really some of the most inspiring painters of our time. I believe I have to raise the chin up a little bit. get the scrubber. This is a telltale sign of natural light, this area right here. As I know, his studio in Chelwood had those, or has those north light windows. Should also check out his son's work too, Alexander Shanks. I've been fortunate enough to meet him before. He's a wonderful artist. Very talented young man. I should emphasize the importance of having a layer or some kind of tone of oil paint on the surface before you begin. It's a very, it helps a lot with this stage. Got a flash flood warning. Well, that's not good. It's raining cats and dogs outside. Wow. I think raw umber on its own is just a very beautiful color. It also lends itself well to skin tone, painting skin tone over top of it, for whichever skin tone really. And remember, if you're interested in taking my online classes, remember check out patreon.com/Yupari artist. You can also just scroll down to the description box down below. Right on the bottom of this video. Just click on the little arrow, it should be down there somewhere. It'll open up the description and you'll see the link. The online classes are just $10 a month. And you have access to all of Project 1. First painting has been completed. Access to Project 2, which is ongoing currently. You also have access to, at the $10 online student level, you have, just look for the mentorship tier, that is the online classes. You have the option each week to send me an image for the virtual classroom. We have a virtual classroom each week. It's a video that I upload along with the lesson each week, and a behind the scenes episode. All of that for $10 a month. So I really do hope that I see you in my classes and see your artwork. And at the $20 a month, you also have the online classes. You have a live stream painting demonstration as well, which I'm thinking of. It's monthly at the moment, but I'm thinking of turning it into weekly. But you have access to the live streams. The current time, the live streams are the first Saturday of every month. For the painting demonstration, for the live chat, it's the first Sunday of every month. I believe the live chat, first Sunday of every month, will stay consistent. It almost looks like a spider on your head with the way the highlights are playing out, which is pretty good. I like spiders. Most people don't, but I do. I think they're awesome little creatures. But I digress. You can see I'm clearly relaxed. I'm anticipating the next layer. I'm not worried about is the painting gonna dry poorly. I'm not putting that pressure on myself for trying to get it perfect yet. And the perfection, as it's as they say, comes with practice. Oh, I see what Nelson did. So sometimes, I'm not sure if he did this, but sometimes we portrait painters will manipulate the shadow. So the shadow is overhead. So this would actually, from what I think, this shadow should actually come down here. You'd have one dark shape here. Nelson must have edited this simply because we portrait painters usually don't want to have a dark spot here. I think you might kind of know why. So clearly Nelson, like all of us, doesn't merely copy nature. Okay, I clearly have the earring in the wrong spot. So it's not, the earring's not that critical of a part of this painting, or this drawing, but I want to take the time to get it right. Wrong brush. So I don't want any more information than just this. I want it to be very soft. And now I see that I can move this shoulder up. And that might be the last adjustment we make today. So there's a cast shadow over here, so put that in. Yeah, that definitely had to move. Now remember, this is not intended to be perfect. This is just a step to help us in the next step. Alright, that concludes the 20-minute interval. I believe that was 3 20-minute intervals, so that is an entire hour's worth of studio work. I really hope that this video helps you out. Remember, I'll be continuing this one along with the Rembrandt, and we might even throw in some more master studies here and there. I'm just trying to produce more content for you, so you can have more painting videos to watch, and also to add more extracurricular activities for my online students. And plus, I really enjoy painting, so this is just a win-win for all of us. Alright, I think that was almost good. That looks a little better. Alright. And here is the painting front and center. Remember, I can't really film like this because there's a camera in my way and I won't be able to see as efficiently. So just to show you the what it looks like front and centered. That being said, if you would like to see more painting videos such as this one, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. As I already mentioned before, the online classes, I have links to the online classes in the description box down below. Also, you can just type in patreon.com/Yupari artist. I realized I forgot the element of jewelry, but we'll be able to put that in later on. I don't think I'll put the stuff in the background. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I don't know. But in any case, that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helps you out. I wish you the best in all of your artwork, and I'll see you on the next one.